Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. It is day 5 of Honey, Listen Up, and you have done each and every day. You should give yourself a pat on the back. Now, what does this mean when we look at this? Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. Do you know that so often we fuss and fight over the simplest little things? Sometimes what we are having a heated argument about with our spouse is just a tiny little nothing. And if we stop and think about it, we need to focus on the things that matter the most, not the petty, tiny little things, right? We're looking at healthy communication today, and we're going to take everything that we've looked at this week in our 5-day challenge and figure out how we can use it in our life. Well, here's a picture of my husband and I. We were on an Alaska trip. That was an honor and a blessing, and we had a great time. We went with friends. And let's look at several things here. When we listen, our spouse knows they are important to us. Think about when someone is listening to you, it makes you feel important. And so we have to look at things from the middle, and we have to look at the other side. Our spouse is the same way. So we want to make sure that we listen in the same way that we want to be listened to. Number 2, we like people that listen to us. Simple and pure. I'll just guarantee that every mentor that you've had, every teacher that you have loved, a coach, there was somebody who listened to you. And that shows respect. Definitely, it shows respect that they're listening to you and you've got their eyes whenever you're talking to them. Number 3, sometimes we need to pick and choose the best time to talk. So this week we have learned sometimes we're low on energy, and it's not the best time to have a conversation when we're low on energy or we're tired. So we have to pay attention to our energy level. Number 4, gratitude is like a golden egg. We gravitate towards those that appreciate us, and it's like a golden egg. You know, Jack climbed the beanstalk for that golden egg, right? 5, be purposeful in creating conversations. So if you're not a natural talker, you can still create conversations. And then the last thing is, let's look what makes fulfilling relationships today. Let's look at what makes fulfilling relationships. So the first one is every human has these 3 things, 3 human needs. Number 1 is to be heard. Number 2 is to be understood. And number 3 is to be appreciated. I know that this describes you, right? And that's why you're here. You want to be heard. You want to be understood, and you want to be appreciated. Well, with everything that we've learned this week, we also know that we can never control the other person and that we have to go first. And the more that we can understand our spouse and ourselves, but the more that we can understand that spouse, the more that we can look at the good qualities that person has, the more that we can appreciate them, have gratitude, the more that we can keep out of that crazy cycle. Or maybe I haven't talked about that yet. The more that we can keep out of the crazy cycle, the better things are. So here's the thing. There's this thing that's called the 100% principle. And what it basically is, it is a 100/0. What does that mean? It means that you give, yes, you give 100%, and I know you already have been, but you give 100% expecting, there's your word, expecting nothing in return. I remember talking to one of my kids, and they were having quite the challenges in their relationship. And, you know, sometimes it's not our fault at all. And when we get frustrated, we quit listening. But sometimes it's not our fault at all. But with one of my kids, as they were telling me of some challenges, you know, I just suggested, you know what? Not that your spouse deserves it, but I want you to stop, and I want you to just give 100%, and everything that you do for your spouse, expect nothing in return, because it is that disappointment when we do reach out and we do try to do things for our spouse. It is that disappointment that eventually turns into bitterness and frustration. And then we're a problem because we're bitter and we're frustrated. And yeah, maybe we deserve to be bitter and frustrated and mad at our spouse, but it doesn't help anything at all. So I want you to consider the 100% principle. You give 100%, don't expect anything in return. Do that for 1 week and see if that improves your relationship. Well, we're looking at healthy communication and the healthiness of our relationship. And the truth is there are different stages in life. You know, we're getting married and we may be without kids for years, or maybe you don't have any kids still, you know, but often, usually you have children. Now you're raising your family and you're all focused on raising your kids. Then they fly the nest, they go off to college, they get married, they start their own lives. And you have that old thing called the empty nest and no one's there anymore. And you have to get to know your husband again better because there's no buffer. The kids are gone. And then there's another stage where there's retirement. So let's stop and think. Healthy communication through the years ensures the best relationship that you can have. It has to start with you. And I like to use the 3 things in the yellow right here where it says recognize, resolve, and reset. First, we have to recognize the things that are causing us trouble. And you got to be honest about it. And then you figure out, how can I resolve these things? Sadly, sometimes things can't be resolved, but most of the time there's a root cause to things. And if you can figure out what that is or get some help, then you can make changes there. So once you've recognized it and you resolve it, yay, now you can reset back on your best track again. Look down here at the red, it says listening. And that is what we've worked on this week, is learning to be a good listener, right? Learning to be a good listener and learning all of these things so that then hopefully our spouse will follow and do the same thing. But today I want you to rate yourself on all the other areas, actually all the areas. Maybe you're like, I am a good listener, but are you appreciative of your spouse? Do you have empathy for the things they tell you? I know sometimes one person has no empathy for this spouse when they get sick. You know, why can't you get up and keep going? But when they get sick, oh my goodness, you know, we're on the couch and we can't move, right? Do you have empathy for your spouse? Do they have empathy for you? Remember, you can't control that. Do you openly share your thoughts? This again goes back to personality styles. Some people are so direct, they tell you just like it is, whether you want to know it all or not. And then others never open up, even to their spouse. They never open up and really tell them what they desire, what they need from them. And maybe their spouse doesn't even know what they need. So do you openly share? What would be your rating from a 1 to a 10 on that? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. Are you able to apologize? I did a survey in one of my Facebook groups, and you know what? A lot of people rated apologizing as one of the things they have trouble doing. So how easily do you apologize? There again, personality styles, communication styles. Some people apologize easy and always, and sometimes too much. And some people never apologize. Now, that's a hard thing to chew. When somebody has done you wrong and they do not apologize. So learning to apologize is important. So rate yourself a 1 to a 10 on apologizing. And then also patience. Are you a patient person or are you impatient? There again, we can't be good at everything, but we can be good at some things, and we can embrace the things that we are good at. Our spouse cannot be good at everything, but there's some things on here, surely, that they are good at. And whenever you are able to communicate in this way, you build a better relationship. So rate yourself, and then you could rate your spouse if you want, you know, so make sure you take a good look at this. You know, back in the day, This is what a radio looked like. Okay, so I'm not quite that old, but you know what? My parents had one of these radios. I remember it. You had this little dial on there and you had to turn it on and then you had to like twist it around to get it to work right. So communicating and connecting with your spouse is kind of like this old-fashioned days, kind of like this old-fashioned radio when you had to turn a knob back and forth, just a little here, just a little there, until you got the radio station to come in. Choosing to do this from time to time with your relationship keeps it on the right track. So sometimes you have to take that knob and you have to twist it a little this way and a little that way. And you know what? You're in the right place because you're just being here means you're aware of challenges and that you want to overcome those challenges, right? Adjust and tune into what's next in your marriage. How would you like to go from where you are now to where you want to be? I think that's something that we all look at, right? But personalities really do come into play in your relationship. Whether it's conversation, whether it's listening, whether it's energy levels, whether it's gratitude, whether it's being able to say you're sorry. Personality styles predict so much of this. They predict so very much. Some people are totally direct. They tell you like things are. And then there's another style of person who literally has their feelings hurt when you tell them straight out how it is, and they would never tell you how it is. I mean, they hardly even will tell their feelings. So some people are critical and they criticize everything. Nothing's ever good enough, but it's not your fault because this is just how they are. So as we look at these faces of all the different personalities, realize that when you get married, if you have the same personality, you're going to butt heads. If you have opposite personalities, you're going to have trouble having things in common. And you're probably going to rub each other the wrong way. And you're really going to have trouble appreciating the other person for what they are because it might be something that even irritates you. So personalities cause conflict and personalities cause challenges in relationships. So let's go back to our healthy communication chart. Which ones are you great at? Which ones are you an 8 to a 10 on? And which ones truly challenge you? And I want you to think about the same thing for your spouse. Who you are, as in those personality styles, who you are determines how you see others. Who you are determines how you see others. Literally think about a text. Some people see a text and they can read it totally different than what you meant for it to be. Totally different than how you wrote it. Because their personality colors everything they do. Their personality colors how they see things. I always like to talk about a car because we all drive cars. And you know when that person pulls out in front of you and you're going like 55 miles an hour, somebody pulls out in front of you. And some people, if anger is their top emotion, then they are mad that you did that. While another person is like, why did you pull out in front of me? They're totally calm. They don't get up on your butt and chew your bumper. But the angry person is going to chew your bumper and you could probably feel their anger. So who you are determines how you see others and how you see the world. But I want to say this as we finish today. Happiness is an inside job. So don't assign it to anyone else. Don't assign anyone else that much power over your life. It's up to you to fill your life with the things that make you happy and not depend on anyone else. So happiness is an inside job. Don't assign anyone else that much power over your life. So today's challenge is to take a deep breath and breathe new life into your relationship by using the 100% zero principle that you learned, practicing the conversation etiquette that you've learned, and jumping off any kind of crazy cycle that you might be on. Remember we had that in, I don't remember, lesson 2 or 3. Jump off that crazy cycle and learn to believe in the best. And in the Facebook group, I want you to put in there your biggest takeaway from the 5-day challenge. And then I want you to pick out your top area from that healthy communication wheel. I want you to pick out your top area and give your rating. No, you don't have to give your rating. So you're going to give your biggest takeaway, and then you're going to give your top area. Which one are you best at? We all like to post what we're best at, right? In the Facebook group. But your challenge is to breathe new life in your relationship and practice that 100-0 principle, and to practice the things that you have learned this week. All right. Thank you. And I hope these 5 days have made a difference for you. And I love hearing from you. If you have comments, suggestions, positive ones, helpful ones, of course. And I hope you can get your husband to listen to you. And last thing, be sure and complete all 5 days for the grand prize. I'm going to make sure you get all 5 days in that Facebook group for the grand prize, and all your information is on your email. Honey, listen up.